We survived again. An easy week in our pool that we've teamed up with. Actually, it wasn't easy. We took Kansas City, and I went to bed at halftime, watched it the next day. So, Kansas City.
Easy for you.
Easy for me, right. If I had watched this, I probably would have been sweating a little bit. So, but yeah, moved on. Did you watch that game live by any chance?
I didn't watch it live, but I watched the whole thing in one sitting the next morning.
Right. All right. So were you a little, without knowing the outcome, did you get a little worried?
No, I don't. I'm not going to sweat Survivor. If I bought into the Circa contest for 1,000,
Right.
I sweat it early. But like in this kind of situation, until we get to the point where we got some real equity, when we start getting over 1,000 in equity, I'm not going to really sweat it too much.
All right, let me give you some of the pool stats heading into this week from last week, okay? And then this way I'll get you a little more invested. Because right now, you're right. It's just like a $25 entry pick that you're making every week that I'm putting in. You're just kind of on a podcast. So, yeah, let me get you a little more invested.
Right.
Or at least attempt to. All right, right. There's a total of $77,750 in the pool, okay? The website cost is $500, so the guy's taking that out. I don't know if that's true. It's not, but it's what it is. The pot is $78,250. The 500 minus, so $77,750 left. 126 people were knocked out last week. There's 1,337 people still in the pool. There was a total of 3,130 entries, 1,500 original entries, 1,620 on the buybacks. And basically, if anyone goes perfect, meaning like you get to the end and didn't buy back, those group of people will split 10%, 77, 20, 75, and then the rest, obviously. And then the double picks start in week 11, depending on how many people are left. So if there's more than 500 people left, the double picks will start in week 11. And if there's more than 400 people left in week 12, the double picks. So double picks only start based on the number of people that are left in the pool.
Okay, but there's like 1,300 people left, and there's 77,000 in the pot. So we're talking about $60 a person right now, right? So we have a $60 equity, and that's great. And I'll get annoyed if someone stole $60 from me, or I lost $60, but I'm not sweating it. Like, so my other pool, I'm down to the final 10 for 2,100, so I got 210 in equity in that one. I mean, the buy-in was 100. And I was actually hoping the Chiefs would lose because it would knock out a couple guys in that pool. So, once we get, to week 11 and we've picked two right on week 11 and there's, 100 left and we're at we're at 700 in equity, I'll be like, okay, I'll care. So.
All right. No, that's fair. That is fair. So I will. So basically, if it wasn't for this podcast, you might have even just like forgot about the entry. You might have gotten the auto pick. This is the only thing keeping your attention is the podcast and me needling you each week.
Well, no, I mean, for this particular pool, no, I've got 6 entries left, 4 for that stupid online book, which is like this, like $10 buy-in and like 1 million people in it. And the equity is probably not that high in that. And then my home pool. And because I wasn't at Circa this year, I would live and die with that $1,000.
Yeah,
that's big because you double your equity there. And now you're $2,000. It starts to really matter right away. So
that is all fair. By the way, I cut that clip of you bad mouthing the offshore book, and you didn't say the name of the book, but I just cut that as like a just like a throwaway clip, and I posted it, and it went mini viral on TikTok.
It did.
Yeah, because people liked that you got annoyed. That people took it like I cut it, so the context of it was not that you lost entries; it was that you lost money, like that the book stole your money. Because I cut it with a different.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't defraud me or anything.
No.
They've lived up to their end. It's just they're trying to get me to play online blackjack. They're like sending me these notices. It's like, dude, stop with that. Like, come on, man, this is stupid. And then I want to bet the Giants money line this week. We'll get into this.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bet with them because it's 6% charge on your credit card. It's like, okay, I put 200 on the money line. It's $12. It's not the $12. It's the principal. Like, I'm not doing a 6% charge to use a credit card. Like, this shit's just like.
Well, what you're doing wrong is that you're not depositing $1,000 in the book. Like, you're doing it per bet, which is crazy.
No, I did deposit $800 right away, and they gave me 10% bonus of $880, but from my credit card, and so I got it. But they didn't charge me. It was my first time, so they let me. They didn't do a credit card fee, so it was $880, and for $800, it was $800 for $880 worth of bets. I put all the bets down preseason, and now I'm like, okay, I'd like to add more, but then it's like it's a 6% charge, and I'm like. It's like going to the ATM in Vegas when it's like $8 to take out $200. You're like, fuck this, the whole thing is like, look, I don't mind paying a rake, right? They're setting up a service. They got to make a profit, but I just don't like being abused. That's all. As a consumer, that's all. I just don't like being abused. If you're gonna try to abuse me, I'm not gonna deal with your product. You know, I mean, it's such a stupid thing, and the interface sucks too. The UI is bad.
Yeah. Is it MB? I'm trying to figure out which one you're using.
No, it's like my bookie or something.
Yeah, MB, my bookie.
Yeah. It's just like shit interface. Yeah. They're trying to upsell me on blackjack. I mean, I don't really care. I just didn't want to mention because I didn't want to give them promotion. But like,
no, this is the opposite of promotion. This is saying don't go on. And
even any publicity that I'm even using them.
Yeah, my bookie, by the way, is known for having bad rake. Just so you know, like it's a tourist book. There's other ones that if you want to use international books that have more.
Well, I put it out on Twitter, and a guy I know got in my DMs and was like, "Hey, this is a book I use. They've been reliable," and he probably got a fee for my depositing there.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, he wasn't like, "Hey, I'll get a fee. I'll send you half of it." You know, he just didn't say anything about it. But I realized afterward he probably got a fee. But
well, whatever. That's what GDC does for a living,
right?
I mean, that's how this company makes money.
What do they do?
They are affiliate links to get people to sign up for books. That's the main revenue source of your former company's parent company.
I don't work here anymore. So
as I said, former.
It's not my problem. Yeah.
By the way, good podcast on Chris Liss podcast with Ted Bell last week. Very good one.
Thank you. I always like doing it with Ted Bell. It's funny. I think I was talking to him. Or I was talking to you. I found him for the regular stuff. He just does it once in a while.
It was us.
You for the sports. And now I got like two good co-hosts when I need them. I'm doing another one. I already recorded. I just got to edit it. But yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. It was fun to do it.
For anyone that enjoys Chris Liss on the RotoWire Real Man Wood collaboration video feed or listening on the podcast after, go over to find the Chris Liss podcast and your favorite player. Talks non-sports, politics, state of society, things like that. Must listen. All right. Let's get into Survivor here. So far, we have picked in Week 1, Washington, Week 2, Dallas, Week 3, San Fran. Thank God for me. Week 4, we picked the Chiefs, and now the two big picks this week are people are looking at Detroit against Carolina and Miami against. They're playing your Giants, right?
Correct. Right. And I think they're both home games, right? For the favorites. Mm-hmm. And so I'm on the Lions. I think the third team, the Commanders is the third team. I only call them the Commanders. The football team's the third team. And they are playing the Bears, but I think Justin Fields, after he kind of turned it around against the Broncos, could easily take down the Commanders. So that one is just kind of off the board. So I think it really is between the Dolphins and the Lions. And I am a Giants homer, and I don't want to be knocked out by my own team. But if Saquon and Andrew Thomas are back, I'm actually going to bet the Giants money line on this. I think the Dolphins are a bit soft. They're a finesse team. They're very fast. They're very flashy. They're fun to watch. But this is the kind of team I would like the Giants to play. I would dread if the Giants were playing some nasty Titans team or even a better version of that just bludgeons you. Even like the Eagles would be a worse matchup for them. I think this is a matchup that if Thomas and Barkley are back, they can move the ball too. And Miami will obviously score points on them, but that this could be sort of an up and down game, up and down the field game. And this whole deal with everyone crapping on Daniel Jones because he had a bad game when he got sacked 10 times. He wriggled forward on would-be sacks for a half-yard gain on 4 others. It would have been 14 sacks. I mean, come on, man. Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes would have been destroyed if the guy's in the backfield before you could even make a decision. This is so stupid. I think people just are haters and want to dunk on Daniel Jones, and this is a great excuse to do it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a little bit of merit on both sides, but it's been two the other way, so your pushback is warranted here. And I think the reason why Daniel Jones gets a lot of shrapnel, well, not even shrapnel, he's he's the target of
shrapnel. He's
the target of the ire.
Nuclear,
right? And it's because he really he hasn't had sustained success, whether his fault or own, and he was paid a contract that cost Saquon Barkley. So there's a narrative hey man, all right, you just got paid as if you have done it, and you haven't done it yet. So everything is kind of amplified.
Yeah, he's a convenient guy to hate on because, it's not like he can be well, what about those 2 Super Bowls he won or whatever? Right. He doesn't have any of that.
He's Eli without the Super Bowls.
Right. But the difference is he's literally at best had a bottom half offensive line, second half of last year and was good. And has just, the offensive line was horrendous. Last year, it was like borderline passable. And then he had the worst receivers in the NFL. So I don't know. I just think he's been in a crap situation. And most quarterbacks, this is what I've been saying the whole time, is quarterback doesn't matter unless it's like extreme. It's Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers is peak, or if it's like trough Zach Wilson, although Zach Wilson played a good game last week. It matters. But if it's like Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr or Andy Dalton or any of those guys, you'll be like, Cousins may be a little better, but
he's the upper end of that bad part.
Yeah. But it's basically like, if he has a good situation, you're like, Goff is actually pretty good. Or, wow, Mayfield came in the league. He was pretty good. Now Mayfield looks decent this year. Oh, Mayfield's the worst. He's going to be out of the league. He's terrible. Oh, Goff, that contract. How are they? They're just giving him away. They should cut Goff and draft a new QB, right? But I'm not saying that now because the situation's good. Detroit has a good offensive line. The system seems pretty good for him. He's got at least one decent receiver. We'll see if Jameson Williams makes a difference. But these QBs, it's just like people are way too fickle with them. And the difference with Jones is he hasn't had it good. He's just had it bad. And I think he's one of those guys, but plus the running, so I think there's like some upside. He's not, he's never going to be Brady, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, but he could be, that sort of hot, I think they can win a Super Bowl with him if the rest of the team were good.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we operate a lot in fantasy circles for sports rather than like the general sports fandom circles, and he hasn't been good for fantasy. For example, Russell Wilson, he's been good for fantasy, maybe not great for reality.
So in fantasy. I have
him.
Took him.
Where you took him. Startable.
He's okay. I keep starting the wrong guy, but yeah. By the way, lineup setting in the NFL in fantasy football is the nut low. Like, here's the thing. Every time anyone who's experienced has a lineup decision, you have at least 45% chance of getting it wrong. 45.
I would say the other way. I think you're 45% chance of getting it right. 65.
But I'm saying let's say you're knowledgeable and you make good decisions, right? Yeah. But it's a hard decision, right? And it's not hard if it's 70-30. It's not hard if it's 80-20. Every decision is, it's never 99-1. I mean, some random scrub could outscore Christian McCaffrey any given week. McCaffrey gets hurt. But when it's 70-30 or above, everybody agrees, yes, start that guy pretty much, right? But when it gets into the 60-40 range, inside of that, now you're just talking about like nobody knows for sure. And so if you have 12 of those decisions each week, and I probably have 8 or 10, some people have 100 of those decisions every week, you're just going to get a lot of them wrong. I mean, you're going to get, and being wrong isn't like, oh, darn it, I got the guy who scored 10 points, and the other guy scored 13. Sometimes it's you got the guy who scored 2 points, the other guy scored 40 on your bench. I mean, just because it's a close call before the game doesn't mean it's a close result after the game. So you're sitting there just being in misery, being like, oh, for fuck's sake, I just had this and I changed it at the last minute, or I thought about changing it, but I didn't change it. And, or whatever it is, it's the nut low in life, fantasy football lineups, because the waiver wire, I've no problem. So easy. It takes a second. You get the guys you want. You bid aggressively. That's merit based, right? It's all just like, look, I was more aggressive. He was more aggressive. But the lineup stuff is just like, it's like that game in Squid Game. You saw Squid Game where you're walking across and you got to just get to the next panel, but one of them you'll fall through. Each one is 50-50, but you can't get to the end without falling through. And so, unless you're the guy that can see the glass, the tint of the glass, you basically are going to have miserable remorse for all these decisions you made. And there is nothing you could do about it. It's just the nature of fantasy football. Like, I truly despise lineup setting in fantasy football.
Well, there is a fix to it. It's not a perfect fix, but what I've done. Well, best ball, sure. Yeah, that's but then the cost of best ball, meaning like, is less engagement. So yes, if you're doing 50 best balls, that's great. That solves that problem. But if we're in a league with a bunch of our buddies, like the part of the fun part is like, you're engaged in the chat or you're talking, but this basically, you just go check your lineup, your league in like week 12. But here's where I think that you can add like a small fix. Instead of having one flex, have 3 flex spots. So right. You're starting 13 players every week instead of 9 or 10. So you're not really choosing between. Now your lineup decisions come down to like, hey, should I start Donovan Peoples-Jones or Richie James? They're no longer.
But it doesn't matter. That never mattered. Like that does matter once in a while, but most of the time it's like, okay, neither of them did anything. And you're right. All your good players are in. That is a good fix because best ball is a terrible fix because best ball is just like, how do I get enough tight ends so I'm not playing 0 tight ends by week 12 and then I have no chance to win even though my team's really good. So best ball's stupid. It doesn't work. You need to make moves. But best ball lineups, here's a good fix is you have waiver wire and all that shit like you play all year, but you just get a best ball lineup each week. So it just like takes your best It would skew things a little bit because you would maybe
just
draft all these like upside guys a little bit, but it wouldn't skew it that much.
Yeah, I play a lot of dynasty like that, and what it does is it changes the roster construction. Like you no longer want like the third running back, like the Rico Dwaddle, the Jaleel McLaughlins. Right. You want volatile wide receivers. So the roster construction in the game changes a little bit. Yeah. So again, and that's also going to be a little nuance for people that are, let's say, just average or a little above average, like into it, like do 3 leagues, not like do 40. So I think just add 2 more flexes and that'll take it out of it.
Yeah. Although that also screws people where you have some injuries, some bye weeks, and you just literally can't fill it. And you're playing a guy who's full. And that makes you draft a roster with all these mediocrities that just play and get reps, right? You way rather have like a bunch of like Tyler Boyds in those flexes. So you're not, putting a Richie James in there. And so it kind of like makes like this like sort of no stars, all mediocrities roster.
Yeah, well, right. You want depth. Like you want, like where stars and scrubs, you've talked about that in auctions, where now you want a bunch of 4th round guys. Instead
there's no good solution. I like the way it is actually the best, but I'm just saying psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, it is just extremely taxing on me because I have very high standards. I expect to get these things right. And of course, like everybody else, I get half of them wrong. And I just am tortured all day knowing that I could have got them right, but I got them wrong.
All right. Back to Survivor for a minute. We'll close this out. Dolphins right now, and I know these numbers are going to be a little bit noisy, but we're just going to use them. About 40% of your pool is picking the Dolphins. About 39% of your pool is picking the Lions. Commanders drop down to 10%. So just want to clear this up for people that listen to you and understand your game in Survivor. Hey, man, 80% of the people are taking the top 2. Why shouldn't I pivot to the Bills that are playing the Jaguars in London or the Commanders on Thursday Night Football? I think people understand why that might be a dicey pick, or the Ravens that are only 1% owned. When is that point where you pivot off those 2 monster favorites?
The problem is that the 2 monster favorites aren't the same team. So like if you could combine them and say 80% on one of those teams, you would definitely pivot off of it. But the problem is the chances that they both lose, let's say they're both like 80-20, right? Now you're talking about 80% of 20%, right? So now you're talking about 4%, right? So like now you're basically saying 96% one of those 2 teams makes it, and I'm going to go risk my life on some risky ass pick like the Bills playing in London against the team that knows how to play there, has been there against a decent team, or the Commanders, with Sam Howell playing a rejuvenated Bears team, slightly rejuvenated. You're going to risk your life on that for a 4% chance that they both get knocked out. I think that's insane. There's a way you're taking on way more risk for a proposition that is very rewarding if they both do lose, but it's only 4% to happen that they both lose.
All right, so let's make a decision here before we move on. We are taking
Lions.
I had it in as Lions, and I am keeping it as Lions. Just want to ask you a quick question. Does my stream seem do I seem my internet?
Your internet's a little wonky. Yeah, what are you in a third world country or something?
No, it's for some reason I got that little symbol that says that my internet connection is not great, but it is. I just did an internet speed test, but either way, we'll just keep it going here.
Yeah, it's a little wonky, but I can hear you.
Okay, but I froze up a little bit or something like that. This should be better now.
Yeah, I just thought you were like tweaking out, but then I realized like you didn't have the you didn't ingest any substances that would make you do that. I don't think so. I thought you were starting to glitch.
Or maybe you were seeing it like that.
Or maybe that emergency broadcast alert yesterday. Did you get zombified by that?
So we were on a So everyone that's listening to this, everyone in the United States or probably the world, who knows?
I didn't get it. We didn't get it here.
Got that emergency alert. We were in the middle of a RotoWire meeting and everyone's phone went off.
Right.
So go ahead.
So there's a conspiracy theory around this, which is hilarious. I mean, not hilarious if it were true. It would be very unhilarious. that was going to activate some pathogens that people had injected into themselves. And it would start to spread all this horrors and zombify people, and so I just checking on you, Alan, just making sure you didn't zombify yourself. But
so my wife,
like so far so good.
My wife told me that people in her functional medicine group said that there was radiation that was poured out during that thing.
There's all sorts of theories. I mean, look, here's the thing: these theories are insane, right? There's no doubt about it. But what already happened is insane, right? So it's sort of like, this other insane thing, there doesn't seem to be much evidence that this is true, but it's not any more insane. Maybe it's a little more insane than the things that just actually happened for 3 years. So I always get a laugh out of them, but it's only a half laugh because I'm like, who the hell knows?
Yeah. All right. Very good. By the way, before we move on to your picks against the spread, I never fired back. You gave me a little venom in one of your great articles that you sent out about in the beginning. You were in a rookie draft back in May or June or July, whatever it was, and you were trying to decide between Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson, Devin Achane. Funny enough, the Quentin Johnson was the highest polled number. That was an obvious throw him out. I suggested Zay Flowers. You went into about Devin Achane, outlier. You like outliers. You're willing to bet on them. Right now, where we are here, I still
Achane.
Okay.
No, not even close. Here's the thing, right? He's, I think, surpassed Mostert snap-wise last week. Like, he's the starting running back in Miami.
Correct.
Dynamic offense. He's, arguably the fastest running back in the league, if not, he and Mostert and, Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a couple guys, but it's not many. He's one of the very fastest in the league. He's small, but he's only like 5'8", 5'9", and the whole league has gotten smaller at the skill spots, both receiver and running back. And so the whole thing that came in is, I don't follow college football, so it was a dynasty league. It was my pick. And Achane I drafted just in two of my Beat Chris Liss leagues, and I was like, should I get him here? I got a gut feeling that this guy's going to be good. And I was like, no, Flowers. And Flowers is the sensible guy.
It wasn't no Flowers. It was like, I guess it was. It was. But just in Dynasty specifically, first round wide receivers, those are the better bets. But yes, you're right. No, Achane right now. Yeah.
So I was like, I was leaning Achane, but this is probably the wiser thing. He was college productive.
And I still maintain it was a good pick.
I'm not saying it was a bad pick that Flowers won't be decent. I'm just saying Achane, right, could be special, right? So we're debating this in the comments of my poll, and Mark Stopa says, no way Achane. Right. At his size, he'd have to be a historic outlier. And that day, I was literally drafting a piece for Real Man Sports about Mariano Rivera and how, he's lowest BABIP, lowest home run per fly ball in 20 years. And these are supposed to be luck-based stats, but he was like first and second in two stats over like hundreds of pitchers, over 1,000 innings. I'm like, they're outliers. It's like Tom Brady is not supposed to win 7 Super Bowls. Like, those are outliers. Djokovic, outlier. LeBron James at 6'9", 260, he's averaged 7 assists for his career. These are outliers. And people say, no one that big ever gets that many assists. Yeah, unless it's an outlier. So Stopa used that word. He was using it to say no, but he used the word, which was that's the answer I was looking for, because that was exactly what I had in my mind. And yet I was such a nutless monkey. I listened to Seslowsky and just took Flowers anyway.
So I love what I've seen from Achane here, but that's going to be and there's nothing wrong with him. And if you wanted to take him ahead of Flowers, that's fine. But the way I play Dynasty, when a 3-receiver league, you get a first-round receiver that you like, by my logic, you would have taken JSN too, right ahead of him as well. And obviously,
I would have taken JSN ahead of him.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
I might have. It was just a weird thing, though. No, the general thing, it's just like the Barkley-Darnold debate. It's like, generally, do you take a quarterback at 3 when you have Eli Manning as your quarterback, trough Eli Manning? Of course you take at 2, of course you take the top quarterback in the class, unless specifically you really like the running back and you hate the quarterback, right? So it's like same thing, right? You typically take the receiver in that situation. But if you have a weird hunch, it's not even like I had a basis for it. I never saw the guy play in college. I don't know anything about college football. I just had this feeling. And then because I'd done some research for my NFC drafts, and then Stopa used that word, magic word, to dismiss him. He used the word.
By the way, I never do.
I
never do the dismissal thing. You notice I gave my opinion. I never went up to you and said, "Hey, you need to take this guy, Flowers." You asked the poll,
and Stopa. First of all, I'm blaming you after asking you. Okay. Second of all, right? Like, if I didn't want the advice, I didn't have to ask. But secondly, Stopa wasn't dismissing either. He said, no way, he would have to be an outlier. He actually mentioned, he didn't say it could never happen. He said if it happened, he would be an outlier.
All right.
But outlier is what I'm looking for. And in fact, in life, outlier is what you should look for. Outlier makes a difference. Everyone let's regress this to the mean. Let's ignore the outlier. Let's ignore the extremes and regress everything to the mean. Yeah, that fits your model. That makes your little tidy stat set. Now you understand everything just perfectly about the whole world because it all fits because you got rid of all the outliers. No, the noise, the outliers are not the noise. The outliers are the signal. It's the thing you're looking for in life, in every endeavor. The vast middle that makes your little model tick and work and regression to the mean. And I regressed it. That's the noise. Your whole fucking life is the noise, people. Your whole life, okay? All you need is an outlier. The vast middle where you're, I'm so smart. I learned stats 101 and I know how to regress to the mean. Oh, this is the most likely thing, That's the noise. Just find a couple of outliers. You want to win your fantasy football league? Have Christian McCaffrey if he makes it through the whole year. Have that guy who makes it through the whole year, and you could pretty much just pair him with almost anybody. You're going to win your league. Like, it's not about the regression to the mean and all that. It's about getting the exceptional performance.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Look, another rule of dynasty fantasy football is never take receivers in the third round of your rookie draft, because you should be taking backup running backs there because, when their starters go down. But if you didn't listen to that, you missed out on Puka Nacua in your dynasty rookie draft.
Right. Now, that is not one I saw coming or had any hunch. I didn't even know who he was,
Well, he was getting hype in the preseason. Like I said, there was reason to draft him, but the dynasty community, myself included, when I say community, like people that I just were like, no, you don't take receivers in the third round. That are
well, these rules are generally correct, but the guy who breaks the rule breaks your league, wins you the league year after year. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's the whole problem, is everybody's trying to price everything to the most likely thing. I want to be right more often than I'm wrong. Congratulations, you're right more often than you're wrong. But the guy who's right when the stakes are the highest, when the payoff is the biggest, can clean up even if he's only right 35% of the time and beat the guy who's right 65% of the time. And the guy 65 is like, look how smart I am. I'm right. And this guy's usually wrong. His takes are wrong. My takes are right. But it just takes that big cleanup. It's how those like VCs invest in Silicon Valley, right? They have all these shitty failed startups and they get one Facebook or one, Uber. And then they go 100X on their investment. And so who cares if they lost the other 20 investments?
Now, there's definitely more skill in that than the example I'm going to say, but it's like playing the lottery your whole life for $1 and then obviously winning when you're 53 years old,
Right. I mean, that's a negative EV game, but yes, I mean, that's,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I think there's ways to look for the outlier, right? I mean, you can't look for things. You can't expect the unexpected, because then it wouldn't be unexpected, but you can be open-minded. I would say the way to do it is to be open-minded to unlikely but plausible possibilities, right? Like, we know Achane's in this system. We know there's nobody blocking him. Mostert can't handle a huge workload. Jeff Wilson's already hurt. He always gets hurt. He's not even a guy with any established track record. So he's in this completely wide open field. Good. He's in an offense that's innovative, creative, and good if Tua is healthy. So check. And this guy may be the fastest running back in the league, but he's smaller than the average running back. He's smaller than you. That's it, right? So is he an outlier or not? But you can look for that. You can look for situations like that. And I'm not saying before the year it's likely, or it's not even likely that Achane is going to be a top 5 running back next year yet. It's not likely yet. It's possible, not likely. Somebody compared him to Chris Johnson, CJ2K, and CJ2K was an outlier. That guy was crazy fast. He ran like a 4.3.
He ran a 4.24, just so you know.
4.24, right. But he was like 6 feet, 200. He had like a very low BMI, ran high, right? But he just, at his peak, was just, the best running back in the league.
Yeah, he was 5'11", 191. Achane is 5'9", 191. And the other good comparison that I saw, and that's a great comparison, by the way. I think that is the best one. But CJ Spiller, had he worked out, was another player that was in that elk. And
he had that 1 year. I drafted that guy over and over again, thinking maybe he'd reprise it. He never could, but he had that one good year, CJ Spiller. But I mean, all these guys are different. You have different makeup, different work ethic, different whatever. You don't really know. But I just think you should be looking for the outlier all the time. You want to hit singles and doubles, that's fine. But I just think the way that most things work in life is, you can kind of get the singles and doubles and sort of eke out like a slight positive EV, or you can get a couple of home runs.
Cash game versus GPP, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Just a long-term keeper question, or like Dynasty League. I know you don't play in a lot of Dynasty stuff, but would you rather have Achane or Breece Hall for the rest of their career right now?
Probably Breece Hall, because he's got the pass catching ability, the good speed, size. He's got everything, although he's coming off that serious injury. So maybe he's got one that's his negative. Also the Jets. I saw a guy wearing a Jets t-shirt on Twitter. So it just said, just endure the suffering. It's a JETS. I thought it was a great shirt, but
that is, I want that. I think I want to. Yep.
But yeah, so there's that factor. But I mean, probably Hall. I mean, Hall will, what will Hall, if you're doing a dynasty league now that Hall looks healthy again, where does he go in dynasty right now?
He's a top 3 running back in startup. Because right now, like he'll go ahead of McCaffrey in dynasty.
Yeah,
right.
Of course. Although McCaffrey's value for this year is so high right now that it's almost like you don't know about the future, about anybody. It's almost like just take him at 1-1, win your league this year, and then figure out next year.
People do that, right? There's people that just say, "Hey, you're going to give me Travis Kelce in the 4th round, like I'm taking it." Okay, you're going to give me, there's teams that do that.
4th round, that's easy, but I think at 1-1 you can make a case. Look, he may be good next year, we don't know, but he's definitely the 1-1 this year. Now if we redraft, so now you've got maybe the best guy for 2 years. Now you're worried about Breece Hall being better than him 3 years down the road if Breece Hall's even in the league or doesn't get hurt again. I mean, it's almost kind of crazy to take. There's just nobody. You need somebody like Jonathan Taylor last year, and now we look what happened to him. Where he had the track record and he's young, and he seems like he's durable, but look at him now. I think Taylor's going to be a league winner, and I'm just really pissed because I thought that when I was drafting my prime time, but because his ADP was mid-7th, I thought I could get him at the 6-7 turn, and he got taken 1 pick before me. You know who I got? Jerry Jeudy. I got Jerry Jeudy at the turn, and Jerry Jeudy only missed 1 game. Taylor missed 4. But would anybody trade Jonathan Taylor for Jerry Jeudy now? Hell no, they wouldn't.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy's the receiver that they think could be, like the Panthers are sniffing around for a receiver. That's the one they think could,
I would love it. Just get him. But I just think like a receiver who's this far into his career, who's supposed to be good, he's too erratic. There's something mentally just not correct. Like people who are about greatness, like they don't just like linger around for this long. You can get an unlucky injury, you could have like a setback, but it's like, how many is this 4th year now? I mean,
and he also, by the way, he did finish as a top 5 wide receiver the last month and a half of the season last year. He went on a tear. There's something there.
I mean, a lot of guys are good for a month, but I think like part of being like a real elite pro is being good for year over year, for not just an entire year, but every year, coming back and same dedication, the same focus. I don't know. I have him in that one league because I thought the discount was okay, but I guess I would like a fresh start in Carolina. We can finish the Survivor segment, though. I'm fading the Dolphins. I think the Giants could beat them. I think if they have Thomas and they have Barkley, which they might, I think the Giants are maligned, humiliated, whatever. This is exactly the wounded animal you don't want to mess with. The Dolphins, they got a little bit exposed against the Bills. I think that the Giants can beat them outright. If I could find a book, I'm going to put $200 on the Giants money line because I feel pretty strongly about it. And the Lions could lose. The Lions could definitely lose. They're not an elite team. Amon-Ra is questionable. By
the way, you did badmouth Amon-Ra last week when he scored a touchdown. I wanted to jab back at you there because we did our like biggest panic meter players, and you wrongly and insultingly called Amon-Ra St. Brown a panic player.
I think he is. I mean, first of all, he's hurt. He's hurt again. That's his 2nd touchdown, right? So he's on pace for 8 right now. So that's not too bad. Right. But I said his over/under was 5.5. So like, I think that's right. I mean, he got in on a blown play. He was just like nobody was on him. But he's the kind of guy, and obviously injuries.
Yeah. So we're taking the Lions, by the way. I already put it in.
Yeah, we're taking the Lions.
Okay.
Yeah, but they could lose. I mean, they're not so good that they can't lose.
Obviously, yes.
But I feel better about them. And you know what also sold me on them is their pass rush last week against Green Bay. They destroyed Green Bay's offensive line. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, is like everyone talks about, like what's his name, Micah Parsons, and they talk about Myles Garrett. They talk about Max Crosby, the Watts. Well, not the Watts, the Watt, TJ Watt, Bosa, but this dude,
Hutchinson
is like. Yeah. He's in the backfield all the time. He's really good.
Yeah. I live here in Jacksonville, Florida, and people that I run into that are just like sports fans, not necessarily like fantasy fans, are all sick that they took Javon Walker over last year over Hutchinson. Looks
like a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. When it was, by the way, when Walker was considered a reach pick and Hutchinson was considered the boring safe guy.
Right. I just every time I watch the Lions game, that dude is everywhere. He's just everywhere. And so we're good with the Lions.
Couple things that happen in the chat. Normally I don't make our podcast chat centric, but Cooper Kupp, right? Coming back in here. People are asking what your opinion, Chris Liss, is on what the Rams. Now let's assume Stafford stays healthy. He's been really good for real football. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. What do you think ends up happening with these two receivers moving forward from fantasy football?
If Kupp is truly healthy, we said Burrow, he'll be fine, and we don't know yet that he's yet fine. But if Kupp is truly healthy himself, I think he's the number one. I think Nacua will be the Robert Woods, and then Atwell will be like the deep guy or the gadget guy. And that's how I see it playing out. I don't see, if Kupp is himself, Nacua staying at this level. Now, Robert Woods was like a top 15 receiver every year, in this system. So it's not like Nacua would disappear in that case. But and Kupp, was sort of the number two. It was like 1 and 1A when they were together. But I think Kupp would be the number one and Nacua would be the number two.
Yeah, Atwell might be the one to suffer. That's because people have been asking that a lot in our chat and in some of our video comments. And by the way, if you love videos like this, if you love watching Chris Liss on this collaboration video between Real Man Sports and RotoWire, consider clicking the like button, subscribe to the channel, and go over to realmansports.com as well. You can see all of Chris Liss's content there. He's got a ton for free, and then he has a paywall for some of the more in-depth pieces that you might like. Did I say that all correct there? And then
yeah, that's right. I mean, I have a link to the Nostr feed where I give away like most of the stuff for the free guys anyway if they want to go to the Nostr, but the site has it for the paying subscribers. But I'll talk about things that people don't talk about. They're not allowed to talk about. You're not allowed to talk about Trevor Bauer and that whole situation. You're not allowed to talk about DeMar Hamlin. I talk about that stuff. That's sports, right? But like, if you have corporate partners, I understand. You got to just be like, he played his first game on special teams, or they settled that, they settled the civil suits. That's the end of the discussion. Right. And so, it's actually the stuff that, I'm not like trying to even have outrageous takes, because a lot of my takes, I think, are, I try to say what I think is sensible and true, but it's just, you're not even allowed to discuss this stuff in most places. So realmansports.com, it's fantasy sports, but there's not this like omission of like certain topics that people are definitely curious to hear about.
Love that. All right. Kyle Pitts, we talked about him last week, right? And I advised maybe cutting him and moving on. You gave a very sound case for keeping him because the upside is still there. I'm going to ask every week until you cut him on our fake imaginary team here. Now, just talking about home leagues, 5-person bench, Jonnu Smith is getting the marginal pass work there. It's now we're in the bye weeks. If Kyle Pitts is the guy you have to cut to pick up Jaleel McLaughlin, Michael Wilson, or just you need somebody, are you willing to do it now, or are you still holding on a little bit?
No, I'm not going to take a zero, for
not zero,
Pitts.
but like, would you?
Well, it's all situational, right? Let's say you have like Cam Akers, right, is your back, and you have Kyle Pitts and Jaleel McLaughlin's available, and you're like, okay, if I want McLaughlin this week, I got to cut one of those two guys. I might just start Akers and hold on to Pitts because Akers McLaughlin is probably pretty close anyway at this point. But so why drop Pitts for that? But then again, why not drop Pitts and maybe McLaughlin? McLaughlin, again, he's like Achane. He's this little fast guy who's too small. He's an outlier, but now these aren't even outliers. Now we're having little running backs all over the league. So I actually didn't check my NFFC bids. How much did McLaughlin go for in league?
I got him in mine at 430 something.
Oh, I'm not even close.
So then the next guy down was like 3,900, 390 something, and then I put the same bid in both. I put 437. I lost him in one for the guy went 532 or something.
Oh, I didn't get him anywhere. Then I was putting in like 250.
No, you won't get him. And by the way, that was discussed on a bunch of podcasts this week. I even think I heard like a credible fantasy say, I'm just going to put in 219. I'll get him everywhere. And the other fantasy analyst came back and said, you're going to need to put in double in the NFFC. They were talking about FFPC, but it's the same thing. It's just not how it works in those leagues where nobody...
The thing about it is, right, like if Javonte Williams were out for the year, no problem. Go put 60% of your budget in and get him. But Javonte Williams is probably coming back pretty soon, and P. Ryan is there. So it's like, you're really going to drop half your budget for a guy that you don't even know if he's good this week, let alone, even if Javonte doesn't play, you don't even know that he's going to do anything this particular week. I mean, if you're going to drop half your budget, it better be a guy, even if it's like, let's say, obviously with Nick Chubb, Kyron Williams or Nick Chubb is out, go all in on Jerome Ford, or let's just say Nick Chubb were out 4 weeks. Fine, go all in. You're getting 4 weeks of starter reps likely. go ahead. But with McLaughlin, you don't even know you're getting 1 week.
Right.
It's like so he looked good, but
I'll
it's just
give you the
ridiculous.
counter. I'll give you the counter here is that you're in the NFFC. They only the first 2 places really matter, right? Everything else, there's no playoffs where you just have to sneak in. You're in 6th or 7th place. It's week 5. You got $700 left of budget. What are you doing here? You need to make a move now because it's not about so McLaughlin's been getting first team reps all season long, right? In practice. It's just they haven't unleashed him yet. Now, you always talk about, once you see it, they tend to go back to those things. He looks different than the other running backs. So I think that's the case for saying, okay, I'm not going to go 60%, but if I'm going to make a move, this is the swing of the bat right here.
I know, it just seems crazy to make that move, and then Javante's back in week 6, and you're like, wait, I just spent my budget on a guy who – and then maybe, in this game, remember, they're playing the Bears. That's one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, they play a good defense, no running back. He goes 8 for 28 next week, and P. Ryan goes 10 for 30, and nobody does much. And then next week, Javante's back, and you're like, you're not even guaranteed any opportunity, really, just a small opportunity. Yeah. So I didn't do it. I mean, I went 200, 250. I was like, I got to check. I did it all my leagues. I probably got him in no leagues, but I was like, I don't know. I got CEH, right? But Pacheco had a real workload as an RB1 last week for the first time. They just gave him everything. But if against the Vikings, it should be a high scoring game. If they mix and match CEH versus McLaughlin, that's got to be like 65-35, 60-40 that CEH outscores him. I'm going to bid half my budget for a guy that's barely better than the scrub I have on my team. Yeah,
I think that anyone bidding that way on McLaughlin, like myself, my mindset was I know that what you're saying is an outcome that is one. It's very much in play. But the other one is it's Achane. Here we go. This is one of the young players that Sean Payton, they haven't been good, the Broncos. So they integrate Marvin Mims more as a wide receiver. They integrate Jaleel McLaughlin, and now they're winning, and that's the thing that propels their season. So I like I said, I went heavy in the leagues where I was in 5th place, 6th place. The ones where I was in 3rd, 4th, I was more conservative with my bids. So I mean, I'd
rather make a mistake being aggressive than passive. But I will say just that if Javonte Williams were out for a month for sure, or even better out for the year in this case, then no brainer. But I think that the fact that he could play in week 6, is he ruled out for week 5, Javonte?
No, he still might play this week.
It's just all
right. We understand that you're an NLM, that you don't think.
I am an NLM. Right. I took Flowers over Achane. I am an NLM.
He's very bad. Very bad. Yeah. Too soon.
Yeah.
I want to know your so you already talked about it against the spread here, that you like the Giants money line, so not really against the spread. You covered that one. Rewind the video if you're watching live. Chris Liss gives a nice take that why he's going to pound the money line for the New York Giants. Give me something with the number that you like this week.
I had some ideas that I kind of like. I think I had the Eagles as much bigger favorites than they are.
Well, state what it is for those that don't have it in front of them.
I think it's Eagles -4 at Rams. I kind of think the Eagles, but I don't know. Now I'm feeling a little less convicted on that. There was a couple of teams that I was like, there was a team that was supposed to be good that I was looking at. Maybe it was the Eagles, and I was like, they're not getting they're sort of, it's time for them to flex their muscles again. And maybe it was the Eagles and just destroy the Rams, but maybe that system in Stafford at home will be something. I don't know. That was my big one. Was Giants was just such a no-brainer. I think the under in the Texans-Falcons maybe. Although I have Bijan, so I'm hoping for an over. I feel like that could. I have C.J. Stroud, and I'm like him or Stafford. Who do you start, Stroud or Stafford in the NFBC?
I mean, Stroud's running hot right now. I am not. See, that's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, the matchup. Like last week, I went through this with a lot of people with Devon Achane. I said, you don't bench a guy after a 50-point week. You don't bench Stroud after he's just ripping off 300-yard games with no interceptions. Now, it could go wrong, but he's good. That one's going to go wrong in my lineup. So it's Stroud is the answer for me.
Interesting. And so it's so much conviction because I was like, the Falcons ugly these games up. They run it 50 times. Ritter can't move the ball. It ends up being these field goal games, like that London game. No one in Jacksonville did anything because they didn't have to.
I totally agree that your logic is sound. It's just that I have a philosophy that is, while they're hot, I'm running them, and then like I said, I'll be wrong a good amount of times, but It's not like Stafford has been great for fantasy.
No,
he's been like 16, 18 points. Stroud, it seems like that's his floor, right? Like 14, 15, 16. And then every week he's 25.
And the Eagles could get after him, and their offensive line isn't great. And, so
Stroud would be that to me. That wasn't even a difficult one. But again, like you said, I'm going to get most. Right, you could fade me too. Okay.
No, I'm going to do it and I can blame you. No, I just need someone to blame. I don't care about the fading.
With our last few minutes here, I just want to ask you, I noticed that you were a little sweaty when you got to the pod. Were you running around a little bit before you got here? Or
I was running. I was literally running up a steep hill to get the metro, and I missed the fucking metro. It was like pulling out when I got there. Otherwise, I would have been here at 2:15. And then I got there, and then I had to hustle up. And so, I was a bit sweaty when I got here.
Yeah, that's a bad. I feel bad. I want you to be relaxed.
Well, no, the reason was because I got lied to about what time Sasha's basketball game. It's a holiday here, and they said 10:30, but it didn't start until 11:30. I don't know. There's like a holiday every other day. No one works here. It's like a joke. Everything's a holiday. But the game, they lost. I was late, sweating. They lost 72-20. She only played like a half.
That's basketball?
Team, basketball. Girls basketball. The other team destroyed them. And Sasha's 11. It's 13 and under, so she's one of the youngest. But like the girls on her team, I was like, it's like, oh, they're throwing it to her. It's an automatic turnover. Like some girl, I'm so mean. I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, oh, you're going to turn it over. Of course she does. And it's just like, the coach, I'm like, teach them to play defense. Like everybody's guarding their man. The man's outside the 3-point line and they're like hugging against the man and somebody drives right down the middle and no one's helping. And I'm like, Sash, you got to help out if they're going right to the basket. Don't worry about it. Don't be like so obedient to the coach. Like, oh, don't leave your man. So it was a frustrating morning.
As you know, I referee both high school basketball and adolescent basketball. I see it all the time. A lot of time we make the joke that the ball with girls that age, the ball's a magnet. And because they all just group around the ball sometimes, at least they're spread out playing, No,
like, but it's the opposite. It's like there's someone driving right down the middle and they're running away from that person to like make sure their man who's on the perimeter is not open. It's like, come on, the coach has to say, you got to play with instincts. Like, you don't want kids just all going to the ball. But I guess in Portugal, it's different. They're much more obedient.
Same.
In the U.S., it's the opposite.
It's the same, but I'm saying it's the same thing at that level of kids basketball. Is that a lot of times you're lucky to even have a coach that wants to coach basketball, nonetheless, one that's actually good at it at that level. There are great coaches at that level. I always go up to the coaches after that I see are coaching them the right way, and I give them compliments. I say, please keep doing this, because they're just used to getting yelled at about playing time and having arguments.
No, I keep my mouth shut about that because I don't want to embarrass Sasha, but in my mind, I'm like cursing and being so pissed about everything. It was a rough one. They got destroyed.
You have to see some of the high school basketball games that I did. The coaches that are ridiculous that yell at us and stuff like that, the referees so.
Do you ever eject somebody? Real ref ejects.
Yeah, of course. I've had ejections. The problem, they deter us. Okay, so a lot of times when you give that first technical foul, and the rule is in high school they need to sit down, they can't stand up the rest of the time. Usually they know because now in high school they get fined $500 if they get ejected. Plus they have to go money Plus, they have to go to a course, which is a pain in the ass. It's a 3-hour course.
Humiliating.
Humiliating
Of it.
And there's a suspension review. Now, they could appeal it, but most of the times, again, if you're doing that level of game, and again, not high school, I'm not like an NBA or a college referee, but there's everyone's filming everything. So there is, So I basically, I try to diffuse, let them know the technical is coming.
Right.
So, okay, coach, that's enough. I heard you.
Eject those dudes without prejudice.
But I have done it before. Yeah. Anyway,
good.
Any last thoughts before we go here? We're picking the Lions in Survivor.
Picking the Lions.
You're taking the Giants money line in
and against the spread probably if I can find a book that doesn't try to steal from me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You find Chris Liss. He's on Twitter on Tuesdays. So, but I wish you would pick a different day of the week because Tuesday is the one day I'm not on Twitter because I
never see you.
Yeah, well, because Tuesday is the one day I take off. That's why because I just after the weekend and being on Twitter and doing all these things, I need a day. Of
well,
chill.
I mean, I would pick another day, but see you next Wednesday just doesn't have the same ring to it.
So I wish you would just pick Sunday and call it a day.
Yeah, but Sunday I'm out and doing stuff. So it's I would only be during football. And then, and also a lot of the stuff I tweet about is non-sports. So in the middle of the football, tweeting all that stuff, it just doesn't really make sense.
So, okay. Yes, there. So the other thing you should have 2 accounts, one for tweeting that, non-sports and, one for sports.
Yeah, but it's too late because I have the followers for this account, and like, I'm just like, I of course I love sports and I talk about it all the time. I watch all the games and everything. I write about it, but I'm just like interested in what I'm interested in. So it just comes out, and I just can't put the genie back in the bottle. Had I thought of that a few years ago, maybe, but then how would I have gotten all those normies to get so, get so pro clutchy all these years if I had done that? That's the other side.
Yeah, like I said, I even turn my notifications off a lot on Tuesdays because I'm just so burnt from like doing just everything. So it's like
I'm not telling you have to do it, man. You should stay off that all. Noster is where it's at.
Yep.
They can't, Elon and his henchman Linda Yaccarino can't throttle your post because you're saying something lawful yet awful. Her advertisers don't like it, Alan. I know you say things her advertisers don't like. So
yep. Yeah, no, I love it. All right,
come to the land of the free. That's what I say.
It's fair. Fair. Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll be back every Thursday until we lose at least. Maybe we'll keep going after that at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time with another collaboration video between Real Man Sports and RotoWire. Thanks. Good luck in your Survivor this week.